Okay, hi guys, so welcome to your week 2 bonus video. So I promised you a little 5-minute video on how to program your HIIT workouts, so here it is. Now, as you remember, and as we talked about in lesson 1, the benefits of high intensive interval training workouts are fantastic because we're using our anaerobic energy system. That's where we get all our fat loss, that's where we get all our strength gains, that's where we get all our cardiovascular improvements when we're working, and then our rest period, our heart rate is dropping back down to our aerobic energy system. So we're a standard cardiovascular energy system, and that difference between high and low in that recovery also is fantastic for overall cardiovascular benefits. So we're getting a load of benefits, so fat loss, cardiovascular benefits, and strength benefits, along with getting better shape overall. So let's talk about programming our workouts. So if we look at our first type, which we talked about in lesson 2, I talked about a work to rest ratio. So if you're doing high intensive interval training, you might do a 1 to 2 work to rest ratio when you start off, then you move on to 1 to 1.5, and then eventually onto a 1 to 1 work to rest ratio, which is my personal favorite. So that essentially means if you're working for 30 seconds here in the first one, then we're going to rest for 1 minute, twice as long to make sure we're getting recovery. If that's too easy, then we're going to move on to 30 seconds work with 45 seconds rest, and then eventually get to that magic 1 to 1 work to rest ratio where we're 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So for something that's only 30 seconds long, we want a fairly intense exercise. So we're going to pick something like a burpee, where it's really going to drive our heart rate up in the 30 seconds, and then we have 30 seconds to a minute to rest. So if we look at your standard burpee variations, guys, anything from the beginner burpee where you're getting all the way down, all the way up, and just taking your time, that's still going to drive your heart rate up in the first 30 seconds because it's really working every muscle in the body and forcing your cardiovascular system, your heart and lungs, to really provide all that oxygen to your heart. Then as that gets easier, of course, you can move on to the next progression, which is simply squatting down and jumping out. So you'll see Sarah jumping out, jumping back in, and then simply standing up. So next progression, once the first one gets too easy, we're going to move on to the second one. And as this gets too easy, we're of course going to move on to a little bit of a jump. And then again, if this gets too easy, we'll move on to the full burpee where we land fully on the ground, really get an explosive jump to get the feet under the hips, and then jump straight up or stand straight up. So really, guys, you have a load of variations to use for the burpee or for any intense exercise like a squat jump or a double under or any of these exercises. We want to be using these in the 30 seconds because we really want to drive the heart rate up. If we moved on to something like where we're working for a minute on and then 2 minutes rest, or a minute on, a minute off, in that magic ratio of 1 to 1, we might choose something a little easier, not as taxing, something like a standard bound skip where you're just doing a single under with a skipping rope. So getting one the right length, obviously, just finding a nice rhythm, and about a minute skipping, a minute off, and we're really going to get a great cardiovascular response. Obviously, if you're new to skipping, you can swing the arms a little more to get used to it, and then eventually keep those arms tight to the body. But you want to get into a rhythm, work that heart rate, work those muscles, and really get the heart rate driving up in that minute. Now, if we want to extend that even further, because we know our anaerobic system works for up to 3 minutes, we can work that up to 3 minutes. But now we're no longer be aiming to looking for any less than a 1 to 1 work to rest ratio, because we want to make sure that our rest period is no longer really than the 3 minutes work period, because we're definitely going to recover in that. In fact, what we're really looking for here is either a 1.5 or even down to a 3 to 1 work to rest ratio where we're doing 3 minutes of work with 1 minute rest. Then we might do this in a standard AMRAP, as many rounds as possible workout, where we can use some strengthening exercises. So let's say we use a standard, say 30 squats, 20 press ups, and 10 burpees or something like that, where you're just going straight into it. So you're working for up to 3 minutes at a time with rest in between. So obviously we're not going to rush through the exercises. With this squat, you can see I'm pushing my bum back, driving through the heels, really concentrating, getting the work in the thighs, front of the thighs, but also getting lots of work in the abs, lots of work in the lower back. And as you can see, I'm doing a nice, steady pace for a full 30 squats. Once I finish these, I'm going to move on as quick as possible onto my press-ups. I'm not going to rush to the next exercise. It may take me 5 or 10 seconds, but I'm going to definitely take my time in between. and then obviously going to move on to the burpees lastly. But as you can see, that pacing, very important. If you're going to work up to 3 minutes, you're obviously not going to be as intense as you're doing the 30 seconds or as intense as you're doing the minute. It has to be a little more moderate so you can last the full 3 minutes. As you can see, I'm just talking through. This is from the Ultimate Body Transformation, so it's one of the workouts we give. So on to your press up. Again, taking your time to set up, nice tight abs, and then straight on for 20 press ups. Again, maintaining good posture, keeping the abs tight, nice and slow, nice and steady. Not trying to rush through these reps. Again, getting all the work in the chest, all the work in the back and the arms, really taxing the cardiovascular system, and just working towards getting that heart rate up and doing continuous work for up to 3 minutes. And again, once I finish the press ups, I'm going to do my best to go straight into the burpees as much as I can. So then take a couple of seconds rest if you need to. Make sure you're getting set up, and once you're set up for it, then you go straight into your burpees. So dropping down, and then I'm using the advanced burpee here for 10. So again, I'm getting a full 2 to 3 minutes work, and then I'm going to take about a minute rest in between. So I'm looking at actually a 3-to-1 work to rest ratio. So the longer our work period is, the shorter we can make our rest time, because obviously we still have a much larger time to rest in between each round. So again, take your time, guys, pace it, and my 5 tips for programming, of course, is always pick an exercise you like and that you can do well. Aim to complete a minimum of 12 minutes in any HIIT workout, and then obviously try and work up to your 20 minutes minimum eventually. Stay in your magic zone and avoid that dark place. You want to almost fully recover in your rest time. You don't want to completely, but almost fully recover in your rest time. And then as those HIIT workouts are getting easier, as they're getting less taxing on your cardiovascular system, you can start to progress onto harder exercises, or you can make the sessions a little longer, up to 25 or 30 minutes. So guys, get stuck in, have a great week, and start programming your HIIT workouts.